Ah, the early 2000s. What a time they were, weren't they? I'm serious. I mean, well, hell, if you read the title, you probably know that's what I'm talking about, but, it was a fantastic fucking time, wasn't it? And you're probably going to hear me say that quite a bit, but it was, because we were just stepping out of the fucking 90s, which were already a kick-ass fucking gnarly-ass time. I mean, it was a fucking just blast being a kid in the 2000s and 90s. And again, you'll probably hear that quite a bit too. But still, it couldn't be more true though, especially with all the shit we had back then. The best selling home console had just released at the turn of the millennium. Stacy's mom had it going on. Five Finger Death Punch had become a thing, and Adult Swim made its debut. So many fucking just awesome things, historical things in some way, happened in those days. And that was just, again, it was a badass time to be alive, badass time to be growing up. Especially, again, if you were the age I was. Now, I was roughly about 4 years old. I turned 4 years old at the turn of the millennium. And I couldn't be more thankful for that, because I just had enough taste of the 90s to take in that with me, and then go into an even more badass time. I mean, sadly, it all started to come to a downward spiral around 2010, but hey, what can you do? But still, Power Rangers Dino Thunder, Transformers Cybertron, that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show from fucking 2003, far better than anything we get now, that's for damn sure. I mean, again, the Saturday morning cartoons, the fucking music, like I said before, Stacy's mom, fucking Bowling for Soup. Man, what I want to do to live those days again. 2000s were an interesting time. They really were. Now, it has to be known that the 2000s were a rather interesting time. Pretty good time, actually, especially if you were a kid. I mean, you had so many great and beautifully awesome things back then, and I could be exaggerating. I don't know, and I really don't care. It was a simpler time with a lot of kick-ass stuff in it. Especially Saturday morning TV shows. Including, but not limited to, Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, Transformers Armada, Power Rangers Jungle Fury, or whatever the hell season it was, or whatever year it was amongst that decade. Chaotic, Huntic, Dinosaur King, Sonic X, and who could ever forget Dinosaurs? Or Robots in Disguise 2001. Bring Transformers, that is. God, I hate that 2015 show, though. Every single one of these shows gave us so many fantastically awesome memories to look back on and think, man, those were the fucking days. God, do I miss those now. Those were some good Saturday mornings. They really were. But today, I'm not going to be talking about all of them, though. Just one, and, well, sadly and strangely, the last, big, live action series for children we would see in the US for, well, even now we still don't have one, except Power Rangers, of course, but that's a whole other ballgame. But still, today I'll be talking about, well, if you haven't read the freaking title, Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, or at least the first 4 episodes. I'll get around to the rest of the series, given time though. These videos aren't just made in a minute, even if I'm working from a phone. So yeah, let's get to it, guys. Welcome to Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, one of the best parts of my childhood. I still miss it now, and I hope they adapt more. Let's get into it, guys.
You alright?
What happened?
Nothing happened. You fainted.
Nothing happened. Okay. So, our story follows a troubled youth by the name of Kit Taylor. A young man with good intentions, but a troubled, like I just said, troubled youth, troubled past with, well, what's considered criminal activity. God, no one's allowed to have any fun anymore. As he's acting out, it seems, at the strange disappearance of his father, which no one could explain. But still, he tries to go about his life and tries to live as best he can. But that's not what our story's about, now is it? Well, part of it. Not all of it, but part of it. So basically, the first scene starts off with, who else, if you remember the show, a guy who goes by the name Wing Knight. As he steps up to save a lady from a group of monsters who, I don't know if ever really got a name, but they were basically our putties for the show. Anyway, he whoops their ass, tells her, ain't nothing happened, it's all good, as he rides off transforming in the middle of the street. Real smooth, dude. Real discreet. Anyway, cutting to the next scene, we see, well, our protagonist, Kit, also known as Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, if you weren't paying attention, as it seems he's having some trouble with the law after, well, basically what turns out to be, like I said before, the disappearance of his father. Poor kid. So this right here should give you a pretty clear indication as to what you're getting into story-wise. Not like the whole, superhero thing, what he does is Dragon Knight, but rather his own personal life, and I guess you could say the B plot. Anyway, we see Kit starts having visions of his father and what seems to be a red dragon following him everywhere, not to be confused with the one written by Steve King, thank God. As it also turns out, Kit's being kicked out of his foster home. Wow. That, ouch. Hang in there, dude. Kit heads back to his old apartment and reminisces on the better times of his life, even discovering the Advent deck, which is strange why his father would have that, to be honest, but I'm not one to question a good thing. But still, though, he discovers it, and oh, by the way, if you're wondering what an Advent deck is, it's basically the thing they use. It's like a morpher. They use it to power up, to armor up, summon their weapons, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, pretty much Kit discovers it, and strange things start to happen as we cut to a paranormal bookshop, or at least, a bookshop, and the girl works there, runs a paranormal website, and, whatever. It's important, but right now it's not that important. It's just a lot of boring banter, and yeah, blah, 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 blah. On to the good stuff, though. Kit sees something come out of a window, or well, yeah, it's a window on a building, but sees it, but no one else sees it for whatever reason. Then walking into an alleyway and again seeing things that only he sees as another character, Maya, who one would assume would be his love interest. I'll get back on that some other time. But still, is kidnapped to what seems to be an unseen force, at least unseen by her. As Lynn walks in, being a bad motherfucker all over again. So, after rudely telling them bye after they try to say thank you, he proceeds to show them that he doesn't particularly like having his picture taken.
That guy's a dickhead.
Okay, so, moving on then. So, after leaving, Kit and, I almost said Kate, God. Kit and Maya disoriented and confused. Kit then goes out to try to find him and avoid Maya's attention. Whilst being almost attacked by a giant spider, falls into a reflective surface. Flying through what, well, I don't know if it was never named in the show, but basically this portal thing they travel through when they got to do an Advent warp, which is basically, traveling through the mirrors, which I don't understand what this does. Could it get them there faster? Again, I have no idea. But still, he goes through it and ends up armoring up. But seems to just be a bland bluish gray color, having no theme unlike what it was that you'll see in the series and what his jacket basically implies. As he hasn't exactly, well, let's just say signed a contract with his, new friend. So after Kit proceeds to get his ass whooped, Wing Knight, almost called him Nightwing, again, I've been doing that for a while now. Wing Knight proceeds to do this thing called the Final Vent, which is basically their finisher. Pretty much nothing's gonna come back from that. And you especially don't want that to happen to you, especially if you're a Kamen Rider, which we'll talk about in the next episode. But still, it seems that, Kit has some questions for him, but he can't answer them on the grounds that Lynn, that is, otherwise known as Wing Knight, again almost called him Nightwing, can't answer those questions, as it seems that, remember that dragon from the beginning? Well, it still seems it's won some of that ass. And by ass, I mean Kit. And really, there's not really a whole lot much else to say as the episode ends, as in true Mission Impossible style, or whatever the hell action movie has used this 1,000 times. They run towards the camera as a fire explosion follows, jumping in as they're engulfed in fire. Like we don't already know what's going to happen in the next episode. Oh boy, this one was fun, wasn't it? I'm not trying to be a dick. So yeah, that wraps up the first episode. On to the next one. Okay, so the next episode starts off where the last one left off. Them still being chased by the dragon as they nearly escape an explosion, while Lynn tells Kit that they have to go back through the windows, or any reflective surface to escape the dragon. At the same time, Kit learning a new ability altogether. As Kit runs off, and Nightwing wonders just where the hell he went off to, we cut back to that bookstore, and more blah blah boring banter about basically who Kit is and how Maya's friend thinks he's kinda hot, as her other friend thinks he's, well, screw him because he's a felon. Fuck everybody who ever made a mistake in their lives. There's no way they could ever change. Just be better people who, again, have made mistakes in their lives. He's obnoxious and, well, a dick. Really, just a dick, really, at first. He gets better as the series goes on, but right now he's a dick. So, yeah. We then see a strange creature appear in the mirror, which we'll later find out is the main antagonist, but more on that later. as he basically summons that same spider creature up again, but what seems to be an upgrade this time around, as it then cuts back to that bookstore, but this time no boring banter. Rather, Lynn stopping by and Maya yelling how, oh, that's the guy who smashed my fucking camera. Yeah, again.
That guy's a dickhead.
She gives chase as he rides off like an asshole, disappearing into, again, a reflective surface like he did earlier, and basically gives off the vibe of, I'm watching you, bitch.
Always watching.
As Kit runs off and Nightwing wonders just where the hell he went off to, we cut back to that bookstore and more blah blah boring banter about basically who Kit is and how Maya's friend thinks he's kind of hot, as her other friend thinks he's, well, screw him because he's a felon. You know, fuck everybody who ever made a mistake in their lives. There's no way they could ever change. Just be better people who, again, have made mistakes in their lives. He's obnoxious and, well, a dick. Really, just a dick, really, at first. He gets better as the series goes on, but right now he's just, well, he's a dick. So, yeah. We then see a strange creature appear in the mirror, which we'll later find out is the main antagonist, but more on that later. As he basically summons that same spider creature up again, but what seems to be an upgrade this time around, as it then cuts back to that bookstore, but this time no boring banter. Rather, Lynn stopping by and Maya yelling how, oh, that's the guy who smashed my fucking camera. Yeah, again.
That guy's a dickhead.
She gives chase as he rides off like an asshole, disappearing into, again, a reflective surface like he did earlier, and basically gives off the vibe of, I'm watching you, bitch. We cut to the next scene in Kit's apartment as he starts having dreams about what else, the visions of his father and the dragon, telling him to remember the contract card and why it's important. Giving us some pretty good exposition, actually. And I'm not CinemaSin, so I won't fucking complain about it needlessly. And don't tell me that's the whole point and that's the joke. I honestly don't care. Gets old after a while, you know. On to the next scene, we see more, boring ass banter from that bookstore, or at least people in it, between Maya and her dumbass friend in the hat who doesn't like Kit because, well, he was a felon. And basically just, the writers just make him an absolutely unlikable character, but skipping over that because, it's not that important, it's important but not that important. Cutting to the next scene where basically Kit gets his keys stolen from, who else? Lynn, otherwise known as Wing Knight, which I'm sure if you've been paying attention you know that, but still. As he tries to confront him to get his keys back, as well, this happens. An electrician gets attacked and kidnapped as Kit decides that he has to do something about his lack of power, realizing that it won't work, going through that whole Sam Raimi, trying to figure out how it works deal. Like in Spider-Man back in 2002. Again, also a massively awesome part of my childhood, like, what I'm talking about in this video. Kit then is reminded of his father's words, remember the contract card, don't be afraid of the dragon, as he goes out to make the contract with the dragon, much to Lynn's chagrin, if I'm even using that word right, but still. Basically, he makes a contract with the dragon, merges with it, and officially becomes Kamen Rider Dragonite, coming in to save Lynn's ass after getting his own ass handed to him. Wouldn't you know? Guess it's the first time for, well, most things, I guess. Wouldn't say everything. Kit then proceeds to whoop the monster's ass in the classic moment of the mentor fails, but the student prevails. Which always kicks fucking ass. I don't care who doesn't like him. But still, though. Telling him to use his advent cards, which is basically, his main source of power, like I said earlier about it, basically being like a morpher, and does the final vent himself, doing the classic Kamen Rider staple, the Rider Kick. Also what would be known as, at least, I'm surprised this has become a meme in the community, really. The fan community, you know what I mean.
A jump to the sky turns to a rider kick.
Kid is now officially Kamen Rider Dragonite, as the two try to confront each other, and, well, Kit stops putting up with Lynn's shit, and Lynn tells him that, you're a Kamen Rider. Get with the program, and, stick to it. In the next scene, we see Kit returning to his old apartment, as he did earlier, but this time Maya's here to ask him a few questions he really doesn't feel like answering. Although, politely giving back his wallet and him politely thanking her for it. Because these days, that would be seen as so uncalled for. You know what I'm talking about. After it takes some convincing, Kit lets her into her apartment to talk about what's been going on with the Kamen Riders and how she may be able to help him find his missing father. But then, of course, the next scene shows us that, of course, duty calls. He warps into Dragonite mode and heads into the mirror, finding something rather interesting, to be honest. He goes in and typically fights his Power Rangers-esque monster, as seen quite a bit in this show, only to discover, hey, maybe me and Lynn aren't the only ones. Hey dude, what's up? Wanna be
Take this thing.
Well, holy shit! This guy's feeling pretty crabby, isn't he? And yes, pun intended, I know that was a bad dad joke, but I don't care, I loved it, so yeah. Anywho, as the episode ends, it seems that another Kamen Rider has fallen into the fold, but is he on their side is the question, as we go into the next episode. So, I'm sure you'll notice that it has somewhat of a Power Rangers vibe given the practical effects and kind of goofiness of the fight scenes, although you will probably notice how dark this one gets and pretty gritty it gets, but not to an extreme level. Especially with the idea that the main character is a delinquent, the idea is that he's a bad boy with a good heart, but not necessarily a bad boy at the same time, but just, like I said earlier, trouble. I don't even know why I said that. But still, I mean, hell, the first scene doesn't even introduce him. It introduces his mentor. Well, at least, what will be his mentor. And a guy named Lynn. Which is definitely different for a change. We don't see a whole lot of that. The next episode starts off appropriately enough, continuing right off where the last one left off. With Kamen Rider and Sizor, I know you don't know his name yet, or at least the show hasn't told you, but still, kicking Kit's ass. Seemingly not doing well in this fight, Kid eventually decides to turn tail, but not before Wing Knight decides to come to his rescue, or at least that's the way it seems, rather deciding not to step in and letting him prove himself, ultimately leading into, well, disappointment. But hey, as they say, can't hurt a guy for trying. The next scene shows us a guy calling up what seems to be his employer, who, it turns out, in a flashback, this kid was actually a rich kid who was lied to and told, you've been cut off from your family's fortune, and you gotta pretty much flip burgers for the rest of your life. Or, you could work for me and become Kamen Rider and Sizor. For every Kamen Rider you take out, I'll give you $1 million. So, of course, as anybody who would be hurting for money would, or just, a selfish rich kid would, no offense if you are a rich kid and you're nice, just saying, he takes up the job offer. And proceeds to, well, again, as we saw before, whip Kit's ass. We then cut to, Wing Knight, got it right this time, doing some pretty badass martial arts, doing some training on a rooftop, as he then warps into his armor, and it shows that, again, they think we care about pointless banter at a bookstore. Although this one's not as pointless, it seems, despite what I just said, as it shows that Maya is trying to actively help Kit, like we learned earlier, help find his dad and understand more about the Kamen Riders, while her dumbass friend, like I said earlier, the unlikable dickhole, doesn't really like him being around her. Cut him a fucking break, dude, really. Then it seems that somebody seems to be spying on Kit, and it seems to be that rich kid we saw earlier, as he warps into his armor and tells Kit to come get some. Then going into a pretty badass fight scene, I won't lie, as he explains to him why he's there, explaining that whole $1 million thing like I just got done explaining. So basically, Sizor and Dragonite start to duke it out, and of course, he starts getting his ass handed to him. Dragonite, that is, obviously, if you weren't paying attention, but still, Wing Knight rolls to the rescue, and with his help, they easily dispatch him, only for him to be like, hey, wait a minute, two against one, not cool, man. So yeah, after they basically double team the motherfucker, no, that's not innuendo, that's what they did, he decides to chicken out. And them just seemingly just letting him go for whatever reason. Lynn then proceeds to tell Kit that he's just not ready and needs to be trained to know exactly what he's getting into, but is in no way easy on him. I mean, seriously, he really does not hold back, especially using this whole double team move shit that he pulls on Kit right now. With Kit obviously getting frustrated at the bullshit trials he's put through, as Lynn does not hold up and shows absolutely zero mercy as he puts him through the rigorous training regimen he does. But really, he's only trying to help Kit, as he's trying to let him know what he's getting into and why he must never lose a fight, as we'll see in the next episode. So yeah, that's pretty much where the episode ends. I mean, yeah, Lynn puts a hurting on Kit, on, well, hell, his pride and his midsection, it seems, and, yeah, pretty much wraps up like that. On to the next episode, I guess. So, appropriately enough, like I've said before, the next episode starts off, again, where the last one left off. This time, not exactly coming from the exact same scene. Rather, Kit and Lynn walk through a mirror, or in this case through a door that just happens to be, mirror or reflective surface. And they start having a man-to-man talk about what this is all about, and Lynn reveals the truth to Kit. Lynn reveals to Kit that basically he's from the mirror world. The world beyond the mirrors, as he puts it, Ventara, which is kind of where the word vent comes into everything. Their weapons, their final vent, yeah, so on and so forth. It basically explains that there are 12 riders, and Xaviax and the other bad guys, which Xaviax being the main antagonist, you'll find out that later, even though you just did, but more about it later, you know what I mean. It basically finds out that Kit is wanted by them because they think he's working with, Lynn. But there's also a deeper reason behind that, which again, you'll find out later. I won't spoil here. Something then calls to their attention as they jump back into those warp cycle things and they travel through that mirror portal thing they have. Not the one they're usually going through, but the one they ride the motorcycles through. Stopping off as they notice that there's a creature up on the roof, which is what called to their attention. As, they proceed to take it out like they would most monsters in this. As it goes on to a bunch of filler bullshit that has to do with, again, the boring-ass banter at the boring-ass bookstore and the rich kid getting his bike towed. Not really a whole lot. Not really anything that important right there. Just, yeah. But we do get to the point where things get interesting. And Incisor challenges Kit and Lynn to one more fight. Or at least it'll be one more for Incisor. Wonder where this could be going. See, the plan was that they would both take him, but then Lynn changes his mind and he challenges Incisor to one-on-one. Which ends up leading to... Well, you know what? Just go ahead and watch. Hold on. Kit watches as Wing Knight, and almost said Nightwing again, Wing Knight and Incisor duke it out for Incisor, what's going to be the last time. Because as they both try to best each other, both of them decide to just pull out the final trump card on both of their sides and use their final vents against each other. With Incisor not exactly faring too well. And Kit having to see it from afar, seeing the horrors of, what comes with being a Kamen rider. As Lynn explains to him, this is why you can never be defeated. This is why you can never lose a fight. Ever. Turns out this thing where you're basically destroyed is called being vented. That's something you don't want. After being vented, you're sent into the Advent Void, the void between worlds. Almost sounds like purgatory, to be honest. Lynn sits atop a building and reflects on what happened and comprehends what the future could hold. Elsewhere, Kit reflects on what he saw, and as the hard truth starts to set in, knowing that it could be him that's next, as he throws the Advent deck into a drawer, just as it calls back to him, letting him know he's needed again. Meanwhile, outside, seems someone's taking a good long hard look at Kit, seemingly spying on him. Now, even though we don't know who he is, or an idea of who he could be, until... well, why don't you know? Thanks, guys, for sticking around this one. I know this one wasn't perfect, and yeah, the editing's pretty clunky, my dialogue's a little bit sloppy, and I don't know how good of a job I did, but personally, I think I did the best I could for, having limited technology and, not enough time or patience to do this sort of thing, but I still gave it my all, and I'm going to keep giving it my all if you guys keep watching it. So yeah, hope you guys like it, and what was a show you grew up back in those days, back in the early 2000s that you loved and you probably love to see again? Maybe something, maybe a reboot, maybe a revival, who knows? But hope you guys like it. All copyrighted material used in this video belongs to their respective companies. I own none of this except for the footage of the Transformers figures. I don't own the Transformers trademark, just the toys in the video. And the video is obviously of me and that cat. So yeah. I do this all in fair use. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you liked the video. Subscribe for more, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe for more. And just to let you know, all footage and music that was used here that does not belong to me belongs to the respective owners. I will leave a link in the description if need so. I did everything in here in fair use. And I don't care who doesn't like it. So yeah, guys, take care of yourselves. Hope you're having a good one, and I hope you liked the video. All right, take care, everybody.